Hey everybody, welcome back. It's business. First things first, thank you for helping me get past the 5,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. Yay! Um, I will announce the giveaway stuff probably when I get back, mainly because I've got a lot of shit to work out with all that. I am looking forward to it, but I would suspect that mid-July I'll go ahead and have that giveaway. It's just going to take some logistics and some working out there. But today's ship review will be on the Tier 4 Premium Japanese Battleship, the Ishizuchi. And you could call it the Zucchini, the Pickle, and the Squishizuchi, all that type of stuff. Because it pretty much all applies. But there's a lot more going on with the ship than what you may expect, and we'll get into that in a moment. So this does have some hilarious little 12-inch guns. They did buff this recently to have a 25-second reload. The turret traverse is relatively quick, certainly more so than, say, like the US counterparts, or certainly more so than the Nikolai. It does have excellent HE and fire chance there, which I'll get to in a moment, but the AP max damage there is 8,000 for hitting a citadel. The main problem with the guns is that third turret, though, and you're going to see a lot of examples of that where it doesn't fire like 90% of the time. So you basically have to bear in mind that you've got 4 guns that are most likely usable at any given point, and it's less about trying to get all 5 of those guns on target unless you're facing a cruiser. And God, again, I have an example of this for you at some point, but it does have actually a really good set of secondaries, and that's actually not that bad at all when you consider that there's I think 11 secondaries per side. So if you get into a brawl, you can really hammer out some serious damage with this, and it does have AA defense, if you will, that tiny little pew pew gun there. But don't anticipate that helping you out in the slightest. Now, as far as some of these statistics are concerned compared to some of the other ships of this class, let me take a look at my notes here. The Ishizuchi is tied with the Miyogi for first for overall health pool, and second in speed behind the Miyogi, but that's it. It is tied with the Miyogi for worst surface concealment. It has the worst air concealment, has the worst turning ratio, the second worst rudder, and the worst range. That's a lot of shit to be bad with. So the performance has to be pretty good in order to make up for that, right? But as far as the upgrades are concerned, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Main armaments modification 1, and you could go with the propulsion mod on this, but I prefer the damage control mod, mainly because that helps reduce some of the torpedo damage as well, and anything to help with fires, really. So they did also, when they buffed the reload, they did also increase the resilience to the engine getting knocked out by HE, so that's kind of where I'd push more the damage control, as opposed to just doing the like the propulsion mod. So, but it is thinly armored, so expect that to get knocked out. This is my skill setup. You know, I've played a fair bit of this ship, but not enough to get more skills, so I do run the situational awareness, expert marksman for the turret rotation increase, superintendent, advanced firing training to get the secondaries more in line with any type of brawling, and to also help me against destroyers if they get too close, and they will at this tier. And I would definitely go with concealment expert to get this to, I think, about a 13.7, 13.8 surface detection, and that would mean a huge deal for a ship that is detected 16.1 kilometers out with only a 12.9 kilometer range. So bear that in mind. This is tier 4. You're outranged by almost everything you face. So I really don't like the camo patterns for this ship. God, overall the Japanese ones are, the color is just fucking terrible. I mean, you might as well just put a bunch of turrets on a jar of pickles and call it a day. I mean, that's basically what the whole lineup looks like. But as far as the gameplay is concerned, let's take a look. Now the Ishizuchi actually has a serious trick up its sleeve, and that's the HE. Now, I normally stick to, and what you're going to see throughout most of this video is that I normally stick to AP only, and that's because the clips today are anywhere from Valentine's Day to mid-late April. So bear that in mind. I don't really have any recent examples because I didn't freaking record anything, but when you're shooting AP at a battleship, like from this angle, the Ishizuchi is not going to do shit. But with HE, you can do damage like that. So 8500 with HE, that's a serious amount of damage. I mean, considering the angle and stuff, you can make people get punished for being angled regardless. So you don't have the AP penetration to back it up, but you've got some very solid HE. And what you saw there against the Congo were some of the examples of the fact that you're most likely going to have low damage rolls, but you do have the chance to get some decent damage. And then there's that. This ship is one hell of a cruiser killer, and it does have smaller caliber guns, so it's somewhere between a cruiser and a battleship. So treat it like a heavy cruiser, and that's basically the best way to play it, in my opinion. And when you're looking at the overpen likelihood, honestly, I do really well with shooting at enemy cruisers with the AP, switching over to HE for the battleships, and again, I don't really have any real examples of that other than what you just saw in the training room there from an hour ago when I recorded that. So when you're watching these shells fall in against an enemy battleship and they're looking good, and then suddenly you get crap damage, even on the broadside of, say, an Arkansas Beta, a Wyoming and New York, you know, those are standard damage rolls there, mainly because the dispersion is rather unreliable, and for a ship that has all these issues as far as being, you know, the least maneuverable, the easiest to detect, and so on and so forth, you would kind of hope that there's a little bit more of a tightness in the dispersion as far as, you know, that frequency of dispersion being a little tighter. I'm not asking for it to be that way, I'm just saying that's what you would expect. Now, I do actually do some really good damage there against the Congo, but he returns it in kind. So against tier 5 battleships especially, you know, when you're facing off against the Congo or a New York, you'll get citadeled at pretty much at any angle. And it's just pretty much a heavy cruiser. And again, that's a typical damage roll. You know, you get a few hits, most of them will bounce, you may get an overpen, or, I mean, that was kind of an odd damage number actually, but because I'm thoroughly suicidal, there's a New Mexico here, and I need to explain something. One, that was an amazing bounce, I did not expect that, and then two, you should never see a New Mexico in the ship. And the reason why is because it's one of the few that actually has preferential matchmaking, where if you're taking it solo, you can never be in a match that has anything above tier 5 ships. So you have only a +1 as opposed to a +2 for pretty much every other ship for your matchmaker potential. But when you're in a division, and I didn't figure this out up until about a month and a half, 2 months ago, that gets null and voided. So when you go into a division with the Ishizuchi, you're seen as being a normal tier 4. And don't ask me why this guy hasn't fired yet. At this point, I am totally expecting him to just nuke me. And now I see his turrets like he's trying to catch up. Again, I don't know why he didn't bother just hitting me right when I fired that last full salvo there, but this is gonna hurt, and sure enough it does. You know, I wanted to put myself in this situation if we were that close to winning, which we did, of course, but you know, a lot of times I did get lucky with the matchmaker and finding ourselves in, you know, a tier 5 match, or sometimes a tier 4, which that was amazing actually when that happened. But you see Jason here in his Nikolai, he's backing me up, and I'm leading the charge against multiple ships here. So there's a Miyogi, Wyoming, there's a few other ships back here too, and now we're gonna press our well, I wouldn't say we have an advantage. We have a points advantage and a cap advantage, but we're feeling pretty confident about pushing in here and knocking these guys out. And from this point forward, what I want you guys to pay attention to is how often the third turret doesn't fire. And you basically have to get damn near broadside to be able to get that thing into the action. So again, it's one of those things where you got to focus on using that against cruisers, but against battleships you want to stay angled. So Jason backs me up after I dump some damage into the Wyoming there and finishes him off. And now I got a Miyogi right ahead of me, and I was anticipating a ram here, and luckily the guy turned out. So that's why I was initially looking at the destroyer, but I get some damage into the Miyogi, and again Jason finishes him off, and then the carrier appears. So the carrier had been harassing me for a fair bit up to this point, and I just needed to get a little closer and show my displeasure with the guy. But despite being the least maneuverable of the tier 4 battleships, you know, when you actually have the speed, most battleships are actually pretty solid, but it's when you make a turn like this and bleed off a considerable portion of that speed that you're at your most vulnerable. And sure enough, that's exactly when the other torpedo sets come in from the enemy carrier. So I was initially going to shoot at the destroyer here, but I decided to say, you know what, screw this shit, I'm tired of this damn carrier, and I need to take him down. So see where Jason is in terms of being able to back me up. I think at this point I was calling for him to try to push the destroyer away from me and see if he could send salvos at him, because I really wanted to hit this damn carrier so bad. But you know, a bit of target fixation, but I felt like I was in a pretty good spot, and obviously seeing that the torpedoes are coming in and I've got them dodged, I don't feel bad about that at all. But line him up again for another salvo. See his plane's taking off. But not this time, sucker. Yeah. And this match was a pretty interesting one. Started off innocuously enough. I didn't show it to you, but I actually missed like 2 salvos against the guy. He had beached on the other island and then maneuvered a little bit to dodge some shells from other ships, and then ended up beaching himself there, which I finally was able to finish him off and actually hit him. But you know, things weren't looking that good, considering that I had fired like 4 or 5 salvos already, and I had only ended up with a few hits at this point. But things started tightening up and getting a little better. But as you can see from the mini map here, our team in the north has been completely rolled. We're already down 5 ships, they're down 4, and importantly, they've lost 3 destroyers, all of their destroyers actually, so that's a good thing. But unfortunately, they do have a lot of battleships, and for a ship like this, that's a bit more of a challenge than it probably should be. But again, this is also when I was not using HE a little bit more judiciously, and that causes some issues. But I am now in the middle of the map here, and there's a lot of ships that are able to shoot me, and I'm trying to select the damn Miyogi here because he's broadside. I don't think I'm going to be able to do much to the Omaha there. Now, I've been told, by the way, as far as the turrets are concerned on this, that you actually have a bit of a better angle on the port side than you do the starboard. And it seems that way, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. I don't actually think it is. But the firing angle apparently, from what more than a couple of people have said, is better on the left, but I've just never really been able to confirm that. I did not lead the enemy carrier nearly enough, and unfortunately I find myself in a situation where I'm taking fire from multiple ships, and I am trying to finish this guy off as fast as I can because we need all the help we can get. We need to get this guy's planes out of the picture. And then an Arkansas Beta shows up, and I've got a little Svetlana coming in to help me out here. Poor glorious little bastard. And I'm gonna switch targets here to the Arkansas Beta because he's gonna flatten out a little bit. The Svetlana manages to take out the carrier, but at cost to his own life. So he does get some torps off here too, but I'm lining this guy up. You can see those glorious little shells from the Svetlana coming in, but actually, not bad damage considering, 5 hits, but could have done better. I mean, considering it was the broadside of the battleship, and he was certainly flat for a fair bit there. I managed to avoid beaching myself, and I tried to send a salvo off to that Ishizuchi. Either bad dispersion or just bad aim. Either way, none of those shells did a damn thing. And I actually had really good dispersion on that salvo, and he's turning out just a little bit. Get, again, some decent damage, enough to make it noticeable, but our Wix loses his life, but takes out the Arkansas Beta in return. So, not exactly a good situation for me to be in right now. There's still a full health Miyogi, there's still a full health Furutaka, and the Omaha here is now paying attention to me. The Ishizuchi is still in pretty much the same spot he was at the last time we saw him, and I don't know what exactly caused this guy to come to a stop, but that's okay, because he's got some Citadel damage now, so yay. And finally get my third turret involved again. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole thing with the third turret is actually, like, the way this is set up, I mean, I have 3 different cooldowns on 5 different turrets. Yeah, that's kind of a lot to manage. So it provides some opportunity for me to be able to engage multiple targets, but at the same time, if you take a look at the mini-map here as I send the salvo off to the Furutaka and cut his health in half, I'm in a really, really bad position. So taking a look at the mini-map, the Ishizuchi is still in the same damn spot. The Miyogi is ahead of me, and he's firing HE, and I still have the Furutaka to contend with here, which, just because he's broadside and I've got all my guns facing him, does not guarantee a damn thing, because it's still a battleship, of course. So you gotta always bear that in mind. Lady Luck was actually on my side, and I get the crack in there as I Citadel the Furutaka. Now, I'm bringing my ship around against the Miyogi here, who's stock, and I did this because he had just fired, and I get some good damage there against him, get high caliber. The problem was, I noticed my third turret didn't fire, so what do? I pull further to the right and expose myself way too much. And just for 4,400 damage there on those 2 hits, which, I'm glad that happened, but this was not a good trade. So losing about 10,000 health and my front turret just to get that 4,400 damage, not good at all. So I did not have to take that at all, and unfortunately that sets me up for the Ishizuchi to go ahead and send that last salvo in to finish me off. So that was a huge mistake on my part, and something I have tried to consciously avoid doing again ever since that match. Alright, and this last clip, which was actually my most recent game, start of May here, could have honestly been in an episode of Ships and Giggles, but I'm glad I held on to it for a bit longer. So, if you thought I was in a bad position before in the last match, this one takes the cake. There's a Izyaslav, a Clemson, and a Farragut, all within a few kilometers of me. So this is not a good position. I thought I messed up there. In retrospect, I'm trying to remember my mindset here. I think I was trying to hold on to one more turret there to see if I could, if I had the chance to shoot at the Izyaslav here, I would take it, and luckily that's exactly what happened. His torps, yeah, I don't know what the hell happened there, but I was holding on to my 5th turret in the event that I was able to get a shot on him, and that's exactly what I needed there, luckily. Not like it really mattered, his shots were going to go wide anyways, but the Farragut also gets taken out there, and now I'm in a slightly better position. But see those turret bombers coming in? One of the most inexplicable drops I've seen in a long time. I don't have AA. Like, I don't know why he... I don't know why he dropped like that. And just to top it off, there's a Cleveland behind me, right? And that should be a bad enough situation. But he decides to walk in front of my turrets. And like, I can't get these turrets back any further right now. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. So I've done jack shit damage here, like 21,000 damage. I've got 3 kills, and I've already had some crazy stuff happen, right? There's an enemy Fuso down here, Congo, and also this Omaha. And at this point, I just want to do some sort of damage. I mean, I want to have an impact here, other than just killing low health ships. So I finally get a Citadel on the enemy Omaha. I've got my front turrets on him, back turrets on the Fuso. Managed to take out the Omaha and do not much of anything against the Fuso. Certainly a bit too armored for that. Now this Congo though, he was turning out, showing his underbelly, and not the damage I was hoping for. Now the Congo is one of those ships, of course, that has more than enough penetration to be able to make you pay, and while I did some good damage to him, he did a fair bit more to me in return. And it was around this point that I decided that if I was going to be able to kill this guy, there was really only one way that it was going to happen, and that was a ram. So I turned in sharp to try to present as minimal a profile to him as I can, and sure enough, I get some bounces there, some minimal damage, and I'm bringing my ship back around. I still want to shoot at him, of course, if I can, but I had already conceded the fact that I'm gonna die, but hopefully I can at least take this guy with me before he shoots me and citadels the ever-living shit out of me. So, get my last shots off before committing to the ram. There you go. So I actually ended up doing pretty decent damage, you know, about 80,000. That's not bad at all for tier 4 and in the tier 6 match. But, you know, this ship is really solid for solo play. Please do not take it in the division unless you're a glutton for punishment, because you will get up tiered, and when you're facing tier 6 battleships, they will absolutely fuck you up. So, I warned you, that's all I'm saying. So as usual, I'm not telling you how to spend your money, but this is available for $13.99 in the premium shop, and I think it's like 2,500 gold in the tech tree. But I think this is a solid ship for solo play. It's certainly something that I like playing around with at, you know, the low mid tier, and I personally enjoy the ship quite a bit, and I didn't really expect that to be the case at all. But I actually averaged better stats in this than the Nikolai, other than win rate, which is pretty amazing. But hope you guys enjoyed today. Feel free to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the schedules, and I will see you back here soon. Take care.